An entirely separate field will be used for tags and keywords to help their guild be more searchable in ways that can't reasonably be covered with a slider or a checkbox. A tag system opens the possibility.
Holy crap, they actually did it.
I told you, man. Called it. Community Finder? Called it. Horde Council? Called that too. And now with this out of the way, it's time to start the next phase of my dark plan.
No, not the Thrall musical expansion, no.
No, not that. That's for later. First though, I think we need to get back to a certain dead horse.
Oh, crap.
Hey, it's Soul, and welcome back to another episode of Warcraft Weekly, the show that single-handedly made this happen. Sarcasm. It only took, what, like 2.5 years to make it happen, but see? Dreams can come true. We've got another monstrous week of news and bob and stuff to bitch about, so don't forget that there is a navigation thingamajigger below in the comments to help you guide your way through today's weekly. But first, let's give thanks. Thank you to our patrons right up there. Without them, I would be selling my sultry voice over on, what, like Craigslist. Hey, it's Soul with another video. Sicka. Titan forging. We have a few new folks to welcome this week, including Joachim and Emil. Our boy Menarg decided to step up and be one of the big boys. My hopes are that soon, with your help, I'll be able to afford a proper teleprompter. That way I can keep my eyes locked onto you, the folks at home and on the toilet, just like the big boys can. Hello Internet, SoulSoBreezy here, and welcome to another episode of the Warcraft Weekly Reset. SoulSoBreezy Bob's Wondrous Wisdom Show. I literally can't take my eyes off of here, and I can't blink. So while I lament this Christmas purchase and realize that my shirt matches my freaking background, let's get to the news, alright? We'll kick things off by going straight to the thumbnail. The mighty Caravan Brutosaur's days are numbered. Sort of. The new 8.3 PTR features a feat of strength to celebrate ownership of the most expensive vendor mount in the game. 10 elves long and 3 trolls high, 13 meters of Xantlar pride. Brutosaur. Bruce, you were a super rich son of a bitch, and they needed a hotfix to cross their own bridge. Brutosaur. For that little bit of hot garbage, you're welcome. Anyway, this prestigious mount is going to be removed from vendors when Shadowlands launches. It's not going to be exactly removed from the game entirely, but it is only going to appear on the black market auction house. This is pretty, this is pretty indefensible. I'm going to be pretty blunt on this one. There is like no reason why this is happening that's going to make players happy, I don't think. So instead, let's explore what other reasons there could be. According to the forums and social media, which is like 100% all the time, every time, it's Bobby Kotick. It's the man himself who decided, yeah, you're gonna make the Brutosaur go away so I can sell more of those WoW tokens. So what's going to happen when an item that costs 5 million gold off of a vendor has its demotion announced, like nearly a year before it actually happens? I don't know, panic? It's hard to say because nothing at this scale has happened before. This could be just another one of those cases where the economy is affected by news of something happening and not the actual something happening. But this could be the start of a downward trend where worried players, they may or may not be buying WoW tokens off of the Blizzard store as we speak, hoping to sell and shore up whatever copper they can so they can get this what is soon to be a very rare mount. But the WoW economy is a two-way street. There's the question of, will these tokens even be bought with gold? Because this is the time when those players who are sitting on a lot of gold may see an opportunity to stock up on BattleNet balance, but they might decide to just wait and see if there really is in fact a flood of tokens on the market. If the price goes down, that basically means more tokens are coming into the market than there are leaving it. Historically, big shifts in the token price are a result of players needing BattleNet balance. The most recent example would be when Blizzard announced Shadowlands. Many players immediately used their BattleNet balance and pre-ordered a copy. The market recovered because, presumably, other players sought to score some extra gold by selling their own WoW tokens that they bought with real money. I think that's a pretty reasonable conclusion. In this case, the token price may be shifting because of players needing gold, not BattleNet balance. But this typically happens in the case of, say, Mythic mounts, when before there are a guaranteed drop, when they're current, but then when it's non-current content, they get moved off and they become a low % drop rate. But that usually happens around the pre-patch of the next expansion.
Hey bro, could you get back on topic?
Oh, my bad. So why is Blizzard taking this dinosaur away? You're not gonna like the answer that I'm gonna have. I don't even like this answer. But in an indirect way, they're making this mount more affordable for the average player.
What?
I'm not a WoW economist, alright? So hear me out. Next year or so, by the time Shadowlands launches, a lot of people who are interested in this Brutosaur mount, they're gonna have it by then, because they fear having to compete in the black market in the future. So as of right now, buying the Brutosaur is more or less a fear-driven purchase. If and when this mount finally does appear on the black market, if it happens to sell for like gold cap, which is like 10 million gold, then okay, someone who clearly should have got this mount earlier now has the mount. Congratulations, sucker. However, depending on your realm's population and economy, you might be able to buy this mount for under 5 million gold. Perhaps even considerably less than 5 million. It depends on a lot of factors and it could go the wrong way, but the possibility is there. That's the point. Consider that other items were moved to the auction house like Mythic mounts, or discontinued items like the Guardian Cub pet. Those can sell for a pretty penny, but this is the first time that we're seeing an item hit the market that has an original price of 5 million freaking gold. If you, person at home, are the type who normally can't afford a mount like this, then you may have an opportunity to get it for a price that's lower than the original.
Hey, you're right. You're not an economist.
Whatever, let's move on. So over on the business side of Blizzard, we don't want gaming to be a political platform, says Activision CEO and the man who is clearly behind the Brutosaur controversy, Bobby Kotick. Kotick attended the Evolve conference, described as a forum for companies to share strategies, tactics, and lessons learned in a peer-to-peer environment. Also in attendance were fellow leaders like the leader of Ticketmaster and Chipotle.
Oh my god, I love Chipotle.
Anyway, in an interview with a CNBC host, Kotick identifies his company, which, by the way, publishes the Call of Duty series, as one that brings the world together through epic entertainment. He goes on to say, but we're not the operator of the world's town halls. We're the operator of the communities that allow you to have fun through the lens of a video game. And my responsibility is to make sure that our communities feel safe, secure, comfortable, and satisfied and entertained. And so that doesn't convey to me the right to have a platform for a lot of political views, I think. Yeah, you think you don't, but you do. I would love to hear your guys' opinions on this, but let me share mine. Activision is just one of many publishers and studios whose games send a message, whether they like it or not. So for example, I could easily say that the Call of Duty series promotes gun violence, while Candy Crush, it is pro-diabetes, and Overwatch is unleashing the next wave of digital pornography. The actual point is that these companies launch games with the best of intentions.
Wait, can we go back to the Overwatch thing?
Dude, no. These companies launch games with the best of intentions to give us entertainment while taking our money. It's very simple, but thanks to new levels of technology and writing, gaming has evolved well beyond the apolitical and genderless shapes and puzzles, although there are plenty of games that still do that today. I get what Kotick is saying though, that he and Blizzard, they're trying hard to be a company that's friendly to all audiences and their countries, even if their government's actions right now aren't in the right place. Unfortunately, words just aren't enough, and as J. Allen Brack said at BlizzCon, it's going to be Blizzard or Activision Blizzard's actions going forward that will speak for them. Alright, so let's get away from that stuff and move on to some WoW classic news. The honor system is 1 week in, and apparently Blizzard is sensing a little bit of dissatisfaction from players who realize that honor farming just isn't the PvP wonderland they were hoping for. In a post, Blizzard announced that the Alterac Valley and Warsong Gulch Battlegrounds, which were supposed to launch with Phase 3, will instead release December 10th, so in just a few weeks. Keep in mind though, that this roughly matches how things went in vanilla. The honor system was added in May of 2005, with Alterac Valley and Warsong Gulch added about a month later. So it appears that this whole 6-phase plan that was originally announced, it's even less rigid than we thought. We knew that the time gaps between phases would be a bit fluid depending on how players were performing, but it turns out that for the most part, Blizzard can release pieces of WoW Classic a la carte. And this is pretty great news for people who want to have the structure of instanced PvP. Not to mention those players who happen to be on PvP servers and are tired of getting their ass beat and camped.
But this is fun.
This week, with little fanfare, Blizzard launched a new version of the Guild Finder and a search tool for Warcraft communities, a feature that has been long needed, and now that it's here, the WoW community has been saved, at least in my head. This week also celebrates my guild's birthday, so hey, how about that? 12 years of misery. Happy birthday, pal. These updates have been a solution that I feel has been critical to WoW's long-term survival. Today, we live in a world of Warcraft where you have choices. You can choose to find a guild that suits your playstyle, or you can live in the world of pugs or pickup groups. A world where your status is largely determined by your faceless profile, whether it's item level, raider IO score, or your achievement count. I can't say at all who's in the minority, but it certainly feels like up until recently, Blizzard has been more supportive of these temporary partnerships and have been pretty hands-off about forcing people to try and band together as a guild. It's pretty funny seeing conversations on the forums and other pockets of intellectual renaissance, where the so-called greater community demands things like separate servers or pristine servers and gameplay that forces people to group together, while at the same time they develop and refine this really robust social system where the goal is to achieve the highest ranks and your social status is just a score. But I digress. The changes and additional features that are coming this week, they are what they are. They're tools for people who are motivated enough to use them. This week can mark a turnaround for WoW's social systems, or it can just be another tool that languishes. By the way, I didn't point this out, but that guy over there, Joker D, the total WoW pro, check it out. He uses the in-game voice chat. That's nice. So here's what I'm going to do to help. Every now and then on the weekly, not every weekly, but every now and then, I'm going to feature a couple of communities that might be worth checking out.
You know, you're just doing what anybody can do on their own.
Yeah, that's the point. I'm just kind of kickstarting this. Here are some of the top social and leveling communities for the Horde over on US realms. The Just Us League, a positive community centered around Just Us, aka Touchpad Warrior on Twitch, who apparently plays on a touchpad. Go figure. Next is our own channel's community. Team No Pants but Rolled Up Pants works decent too. It's probably the greatest community in WoW because you are in it. And if you're not, then you're probably Alliance, which in that case, I forgive you. Blizzard gets the blame for that anyway. Here's a fun fact. The name that I chose uses the maximum amount of characters available to use. Next is the WoW Secret Finding Community, which I presume is an arm of the Discord channel, the WoW Secret Finding Community. Last but not least is the community Mounts Obsessed. Anything and all about mounts. Find runs for mount runs and, well, I guess you kick them out of the group if they try to ninja your shit. This might sound pretty bonkers, but guilds and communities can be useful and they work well when they are used. So my advice, give this tool a shot. Join one of these guilds or communities and give them a shot. Last week, we took a look at an awesome piece of artwork that would serve as the cover of an upcoming Game Informer issue that will feature all the latest Blizzard stuff, but most importantly, World of Warcraft Shadowlands. The digital issue is out, and it's behind a paywall. Go figure. But a few of the articles are available to read for free online, including a feature on Revendreth, the realm of the Venthyr. As mentioned in some BlizzCon interviews, the Revendreth zone is comprised mostly of a giant castle and its surrounding area. So think on the scale of Suramar, but maybe this time the castle to outskirts ratio is even greater. I'm not going to spoil the article, I encourage you to actually check out the link below and read for yourself, but here's a quote that sums up the author's feelings. My tour of Revendreth left me a bit awestruck. It's rare that I can't wait to get in and begin what will inevitably just be distilled down to grabbing a bunch of quests and doing them most efficiently to level up, but I'm more excited for the prospect of what happens after. Oh, riveting. Okay, maybe it's not so explosive, but it does read like someone who is very familiar with the World of Warcraft and other MMOs. It sounds real, and I appreciate that. Also in the Game Informer article is a glimpse of the full allotment of Covenant abilities that are going to be available for Death Knights. In the demo at BlizzCon, we only got access to the Kyrian Covenant's abilities across all the classes. So now let's take a look at what Death Knights have available. For the Night Fae, they get Death's Due. It's a targeted AoE spell that deals pulsing damage for 10 seconds. While within the field, enemies deal reduced damage while you gain strength. For the Kyrian, we have Shackle the Unworthy. It's a single target dot and debuff that benefits you. It has a 1 minute cooldown, but the cooldown is reduced when you use spenders, so the cooldown is probably more like 40 or so seconds. For the Venthyr, Swarming Mist. It's kind of like the Demon Hunter's Immolation on a 1 minute cooldown. It gives some AoE defense, deals damage for 8 seconds, and restores runic power based on how many enemies are affected. Finally, for the Necrolord's Abomination Limb. You grow another frickin' arm, which deals 4 ticks of damage, and it'll death grip a nearby target if there are no targets within 5 yards of you. So far I'm really impressed with the selections. Each ability has its own strengths and a theme that fits each covenant.
Well, according to my sims, your best ability is Swarming Mist for both single target and AoE, but that's based on your current stat ratings. But the Necrolords clearly have the more powerful utility for PvP arena. Blizzard, this is stupid. We should be able to swap out our covenants whenever we want to.
And you know what? I get it. As gamers, we want to make the best choice, and what better choice is there than to have the freedom to adapt to any situation? But here's the problem. Possibility quickly turns into expectation, which will take these kinds of choices and it turns them into what you should be doing in any given situation. What that does mentally is take choice away, apart from choosing to be lazy or suboptimal, and it's clear that many players would rather not feel that kind of social pressure, and they'll just follow whatever the website tells them. The way I see it, as long as these abilities always feel like a button that you can press in any given situation, I think Covenant abilities will be a win. And then we're going to complain later on when Shadowlands is over and we're going to lose these abilities like 3 years from now, but let's not get disappointed too soon, alright? So now let's get to the what of the week, where I cite some of the ridiculousness of the internet while normalizing my own. Nah, it's not clickbait. PC Gamer conducted an interview with the founders of Blizzard North, who are David Brevik and the brothers Eric and Max Schaefer. These are the guys that made Diablos 1 and 2 possible. The interview posted on PC Gamer site includes their opinions on Diablo 4, as well as how Blizzard has changed, among other subjects. In other words, it's a bunch of guys talking about the obvious. The interview started off well enough when I was reading it. It started off talking about the recent Diablo 4 announcement and went into each developer's insights when it came to the theme and art direction and how they had to haggle with Blizzard down in Irvine to get what they wanted. That could have been it, and I could have left happy. But then, like midway through, it turned into this sort of, not anti-Blizzard thing, but it came off as the interview asking these three guys, oh gee, things sure have changed, right? So then we get quotes like Brevik saying Blizzard completely changed from its original roots, but also points out that it's something that happens with companies all the time as they grow. The Schaefer brothers said that the old Blizzard is gone, and that the whole empire is different. The interview goes on to talk about Blizzard getting all corporate, their behavior on the Hearthstone debacle. It was starting to turn me off, but I pushed through. I managed to finish because they went back to Diablo 4, where Brevik threw some shade over at Blizzard because they happened to kill Deckard Cain in Diablo 3. Spoiler alert. But by the end of the whole thing, I was left like, what? There are a few takeaways here. One is that things are going to change after, 17 years after these guys parted with Blizzard? 17 years ago, most of the world still ran off of dial-up. Apple was on its 3rd generation of iPod, and MySpace just launched. Over the course of 17 years, who knows how many game studios and publishers, even gaming platforms, rose and faded into nothing. I did very much appreciate their views on Diablo 4, but not so much the nuances of a small studio's transformation into a global enterprise that churns out franchises. The second takeaway is that these guys made it sound like, as a game developer, you shouldn't, or you're not supposed to let yourself get too big. Otherwise, you're going to get bogged down and burdened by things like shareholders and globalization. Stay small and stay independent. If your studio is around long enough, then you lose yourself. That's kind of how this read to me. But for these smaller studios, it's not all chicken and waffles either. What happened early this year with the Activision Blizzard layoffs it sucked. It really sucked. But it's just one of the many drawbacks of being this big corporate entity. But I've seen the struggles of small studios that work out of a garage, putting in long hours with very little backing, not even getting paid at all until the game ships, however many months or years later. The fantasy of creating and self-publishing your own game is not nearly as romantic as you think. These old Blizzard North guys, they used their exceptional skills and experience and their name recognition to make new games like Hellgate London, the Torchlight series, and other games that are now in development. But the studios that make these games, where are they now? Most of, not all of them, are gone. The business of making games is still very volatile, where completing the project sometimes means everyone gets their check and then they're kicked to the curb. They gotta move on to the next studio, the next project, the next job, and not everyone in the business is interested in trying to make a living like that. And I'm being pretty ranty today, huh?
No duh.
Well, it's a good thing that I have a little navigation thing, just a reminder. An 8.3 build was deployed just the other day, giving us a chance to take a second look at the eyeballs of Death Knights, which have moved away from the glow that used to sort of hover over the eye to what's basically white eyes with a blue shadow. Blood Elves are being given a bit different of a treatment though. Here we're able to see the outlines of the eyes a little bit better, so I suppose this is just a way to express that, yeah, sure, the elves have a unique sparkle in their eye, but Death Knights, they clearly have their brightness cranked up. Reactions around the community have so far been kind of mixed. People either love or hate the changes, and when it comes to arts, this is probably the best we can ever expect.
Says you, I want the nostalgic look.
Okay, Bob.
Oh, and where are our high elves?
Okay, moving on. Earlier this week, I reacted to changes that were coming to Mythic Plus rewards in 8.3 now that Titan Forging and War Forging is no longer going to be a thing. Well, with this PTR build, Blizzard tossed more blood into the water by giving an item level boost to the final two bosses in the Ny'alotha raid. We've learned that these bosses will drop item level 485 gear on Mythic, 10 item level higher than anything else you can get anywhere else.
Oh here we go again.
Yeah, don't you just love this roller coaster of emotion? I've given my 2 cents on this already, and as just a heroic or AOTC raider, this change doesn't affect me, so I'm not able to give a good opinion. But I'd like to hear yours though. Does this affect you one bit at all? Is this something that will appease raiders? Are you Mythic Plus people, do you feel left out? Let us know. Last week I talked about this so-called infinite trait coming in 8.3. It was a way to keep farming artifact power so you can gain corruption resistance, which will let you throw on some more of this corrupted gear with fewer penalties. And a lot of people agreed with me in the sense that farming for AP isn't unlike going to the DMV purely for the enjoyment of standing in line. And so it's going away. Poof, gone. You did it, internet. Give yourself a pat on the back. Here's what's going to happen instead. You'll still be able to keep upgrading your good old Heart of Azeroth with artifact power, but that's about it. Just an increased item level, whatever. So you can keep raging about that all you like if you really want to. But there will be a way to increase your corruption resistance over time, which will let you wear more of the corrupted gear. Doing heroic visions as well as kicking the Zoth's ass in whatever difficulty will score you an item that you can use to upgrade your cloak even further, and that's going to be what increases your resistance. This takes us back to the days of Antorus and those upgradable Pantheon trinkets that we obtained, except in this case we'll be sporting a legendary cloak that without a doubt everyone is going to be using for its benefits. And finally, there is transmogging into legendary weapons. We already heard that this is going to be a thing back in the Shadowlands announcement at the BlizzCon, but in basically what is a why wait sort of moment, we're going to be able to transmog our weapons into our previously acquired legendary weapon things in the upcoming patch. Cool. And that's the show.
Wait, that's all you have to say about it?
I said cool. I want to thank everyone so far who's given their feedback, both for a chance at WoW Game Time and a chance for me to improve the channel. But I want more. I crave more. I love seeing the comments that say, hey, everything's great, keep up with the good work, don't change a thing, yada yada yada. But I want to present a specific ask, though, people at home and on the toilet. I would love it if you were to fill in the blanks here and complete the following statement. I want more blank. And I want less blank. That's pretty much it. I'm eager to hear more of your feedback.
I want more Bob. I want less Soul.
You hung out until the end, and I very, very much appreciate it. Of course, like the video if you enjoyed yourself, and subscribe for more of this and all things Warcraft. I'll see you next week, hopefully, and maybe I'll get to all the things that I wanted to do this week and didn't. Haha! But anyway, see you folks. Until then, stay safe, stay happy, and stay breezy. 10 elves long and 3 trolls high, 13 meters of Xantlar pride. Brutosaur. Bruce, you were a super rich son of a bitch, and they needed a hotfix just to cross their own bridge. Brutosaur.